Genova Burns has been servicing the corporate community in the New York and New Jersey metropolitan area for 35 years. John Quincy Adams once said it best: "Whoever tells the best story wins." So here is our story. My name is Bill Heller. I've been a proud member of the New Jersey Bar since 1978, and I am now affiliated with the Genova Burns law firm. I'm proud to be affiliated with the firm, which covers almost every area of the law that any corporation would need, especially when it comes to the World Cup, which is coming our way in the New York metropolitan area real soon. With me is my friend Jim Kirkos, who is the chairman of the Meadowlands Chamber of Commerce. And during our conversation today, we'll talk about some of the business and legal issues that companies may face. So first, let me start by asking Jim, how did we get the benefit of being awarded the World Cup?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Bill. It's a great conversation. We're immensely excited by the idea of having World Cup be a part of this region coming here to MetLife Stadium in 2026. And the process is a long process. It started back about 5.5 years ago when the United States and Canada and Mexico participated in a joint bid to FIFA for us to be the countries that would host the 2026 World Cup. And then we were successful at being awarded the North American bid. It was a joint 3-country bid. And then the process then evolves into venues. So now once it comes to North America, Mexico, Canada, and the United States, now how do we figure out whether we could become one of the venues here in the New York, New Jersey marketplace with MetLife Stadium? And so the bid process is arduous, but it's one that you just need to be at all the time. Luckily enough, we know how to do big events in this region. MetLife Stadium and its team is a pro at doing big events, and so we have a little bit of historic knowledge on how to go about that process.
Terrific. Thanks. Thank you, Jim. When that process was ongoing, I was in my previous employment as the Senior Vice President and General Counsel of the New York Giants, and in that role, I was familiar with and participated a little bit in the process that Jim has just described. Jim, what was key in the process in getting the award?
I think experience was one of the first keys. There's a couple, actually. I think the first one is experience. And as I said in my last comment, the MetLife Stadium has hosted major events, Super Bowl, WrestleMania twice, international soccer, some of the biggest concerts in the world. So the stadium has an inherent experience level of hosting these big events. And any big entity like FIFA wants to know they're going to a place that knows how to do big events. The other piece, I think, is this New York, New Jersey media market, right? We're in the media market of the world. We're next to the greatest city in the world. We have incredible transportation links and destination-related assets, especially now with American Dream being open. And so FIFA wants to make sure that those that travel to this region for these games have a great experience, and we have the necessary, what I call destination assets, to make sure we provide a destination experience.
Does all of this bring advantages to local businesses?
Immense economic impact. Anytime you, listen, it would be great economic impact even if we were only hosting the final, but we have 8 games including the final. So for 5 to 6 weeks at a minimum, we'll have fans and FIFA staff and visitors and broadcasters and media here in the particular region. We're going to make sure they find their way into all the local communities, and that's where the economic impact really takes place.
Well, that's good, because there are also opportunities to avoid legal landmines as you try to exploit the opportunities that Jim has just described. And there are many, many opportunities, but they almost go through the World Cup host committee. Among the legal issues that could arise in exploiting these economic opportunities are intellectual property law, privacy law, immigration law, labor and employment law, contract law, and just about any other area of the law that you can imagine. There are big stakes here. FIFA is a large international corporation. I'm not sure of this, but I believe the contract with the MetLife Stadium corporate entity reads something like 70-plus pages, and I think that's single-spaced. So it's very thorough. I encourage you to get in touch with the Genova Burns firm. We are the go-to firm in New Jersey for World Cup issues. We cover everything from governmental compliance and intellectual property and privacy, employment law, labor law, and the like. We know from prior experience at MetLife Stadium that soccer brings the biggest crowds. MetLife Stadium's capacity is about 82,500. And when soccer is played in the stadium, just a normal match, the stadium is packed. That creates traffic issues for the state police and fans. That creates issues about alcohol compliance and the like. And it creates issues allowing the opportunity to local business to advertise their name and brand in front of a huge crowd. Jim, what's your comment on what I just said?
So I think first of all, our job is to be, as an organization, the Chamber and our Visitors Bureau, our job is to make sure that businesses of all sizes, and particularly small businesses who don't really have a full understanding of the complexities of all the different legal issues that you mentioned. And I'll give you an example. I know that when we look back to Super Bowl, when Super Bowl was in town, there was entities, corporations that were buying out restaurants and facilities, right, to host corporate hospitality. And that's great, and that should be part of it. We want that to take place. But if an international company is asking you to sign a contract to buy out your restaurant or facility or what have you for a week, a day, whatever it may be, you need to understand the law. You need to understand how to protect yourself. We certainly want you to have that business. We're encouraging it. We'll help promote it. But at the end of the day, we want you to be safe. So making sure we get the expertise that Genova Burns offers into the hands of all types of businesses is critically important, because we want them to be smart at winning that business.
Thanks, Jim. You know, what you just said reminds me that insurance issues and alcohol compliance laws also will come into play as these restaurants or venues host private parties or even public events. One of the things I want to touch upon now is the issue of trademark law, because it is appropriate due to the fame of the FIFA name and trademarks. You probably have seen over many years that when advertisers do not have permission of the NFL to use the words Super Bowl, a radio station or TV will say, "Come to the big game." The big game has become synonymous with the Super Bowl. Everyone knows what we're talking about, but what it says is that the advertiser doesn't have the NFL's permission. The NFL polices its trademark very vigorously, and so does FIFA. As you can see, we have on the desk a branded FIFA stripe. I am convinced that it is genuine. Mr. Kirkos was given it by FIFA themselves. Isn't that right, Jim?
The host committee, correct.
The host committee. So while you have the opportunity to advertise your brand and get eyeballs on your name and brand, be aware of how you do that. Get the advertising copy vetted before you advertise, and that includes especially on the internet or other digital media. This is especially important for local and small businesses in our area, because many times they will do things in good faith, but without seeking the advice of counsel. If a local restaurant decides to advertise that it's available for FIFA events, can it use the FIFA name and trademark? Well, that depends on how it uses the name. And this gets into issues of trademark infringement and fair use, which is a defense to trademark infringement. And it's something that the Genova Burns firm can assist with to keep you out of trouble. In addition, we have a number of transportation companies who are members of the Meadowlands Chamber. The business opportunities for them are immense, but likewise in the transportation industry, there are a lot of issues, legal issues, that they have to address. Jim?
Yeah, no, I think, Bill, what you're saying is critically important, and what the work that we're doing as an organization is to work with FIFA and especially the host committee on getting those permissions for some branding rights, and we've asked the host committee to produce a logo or some branding material that they can broadly use in the community, and that we would help disseminate to businesses that says, okay, you may not be able to use the main FIFA logo for the event, but you can use some version of it that they provide to us, so that we don't have to go through the machinations of having businesses receive cease and desist letters and having to take down a web page or a social media post because they're anxious and supportive. And so we're working on that right now. I feel confident that we will get to a place like that, but we're going to need to continue, Bill, you and I are going to need to continue to make sure we're putting this information in the marketplace and make sure businesses have the awareness. And the greater amount of business that you do will require the greater amount of legal sophistication.
Sure. Yeah, of course, you'll call us about the license agreement.
Of course.
What Jim just said calls to mind another issue. Should you get a cease and desist letter, don't ignore it. FIFA is the big dog in the room, and they will pursue a cease and desist letter that is ignored. There are ways to resolve those kinds of conflicts without litigation, arbitration, or mediation. And one of the things in which Genova Burns excels is dispute resolution. We try to keep our clients out of litigation, but if they have to litigate a case, we're ready to do so. Jim, what is the economic impact that the World Cup games will have to our area?
So while I would love to give you a dollar value, FIFA themselves have indicated that the economic impact to the region and to New Jersey could be in excess of $2 billion. And so my job and our job is to make sure that New Jersey and for me, especially the greater Meadowlands area, gets as big of a chunk as possible of that. And so if you think about where that economic impact comes from, it first starts with accommodation. So once you fill hotel rooms in the region, all of those folks need to eat, they need to shop, they need to travel around, they need to entertain themselves. And like I said before, there could be people that are in the region for the games for weeks at a time. You know, this is not an event where, even like Super Bowl, where somebody comes in 2 days before Super Bowl and leaves the next day. We expect people to be here on extended stays, and we actually expect the hotel community will have 3, 4, 5 day minimums to their hotel stays, and so people will be here longer. That's a great opportunity for us to make sure we're moving those visitors and we're getting them into all the local eateries, the local attractions, the local entertainment spots. And so we think the economic impact is going to be huge. We think New Jersey is going to be a big winner, despite the fact that a lot of media attention is always on New York. Sure. We are hosting the game right here, and we're better and smarter now than we've been in the past about how to attract visitors to the New Jersey side of the river.
For sure. You know, Jim's comment raises two issues on which I'd like to comment. The first is the people who will be visiting. In large part, they're going to be foreign individuals traveling into the United States to enjoy the games, and probably for these extended stays, just as Jim mentioned. What we need to remember as businesses working with these customers and clients is that their culture and their norms may be different from ours. And the best advice we can give is take the experience you have obtained in your employment law compliance here in the U.S. and treat each visitor, each client, each customer as you would an employee under the employment laws of New Jersey and the federal government. The second thing I want to mention is this. A lot of people are surprised to hear this, but if you're entering into a contract with foreign visitors to our country, you may be dealing with people abroad. In the United States, there's something called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and it applies to almost every business in our area. Basically what it says is you can't do unlawful things to get business from foreign countries. And if you wish, we can talk to you about compliance with the Corrupt Practices Act. It's inappropriate to go into it in detail in this podcast, but it's something that surprises people with whom we speak about the coming World Cup events.
I'd like to address a little bit the international protocols, because it's a really good point, Bill, and the things that we need to make sure of. And we're telling our members and businesses that they need to educate themselves to the potential languages. Even
Right.
our own website's is going to be translated in 4 or 5 languages. Our visitor website will be in 4 or 5 languages. But you said something that was really appropriate, and that was
About time.
and that was, we need to provide a great experience. You know, if you think about economic impact, we always think about the now, right? So people come in during the games, but we have an incredible opportunity to showcase our region, not only for now but for the future. This is our opportunity to really put out a menu of all the things that people can do here. Not only do we want them staying in our region when they come for World Cup, but we want them to come back. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure we're all providing that great experience. Understanding certain protocols and customs of your customers that are coming in, making sure the hostess at the stand is greeting those customers and is not only tolerant but it's welcoming of all different people coming into the region based on what they're wearing, you know, based on their language. We want to make people feel, I call it giving people a great warm welcome. If we practice that, then the economic impact of the games and subsequent to the games will be immensely successful for us.
For sure. You know, when I talked about brand extension and advertisements before, it ties directly into what Jim just said, because you want to increase the goodwill of your business by dealing with FIFA, by dealing with all of the people who will be visiting for the games. There's one area that I want to mention also, and that is avoiding bad publicity. And the best way to avoid bad publicity is to make sure that whatever you're doing complies with the law. And now I'm talking about New Jersey state and federal laws that may apply to whatever activities you are engaged in for the World Cup. In that connection, the founder of our firm, Angelo Genova, is one of the leading governmental lawyers in New Jersey. And we have the firepower to address those issues with you and, to be a bit facetious, keep you out of jail. Jim, do you see any short or long-term labor boost for our area?
Oh yeah, listen, I think because of the volume of business, many businesses, I think particularly in hospitality, and that covers dining and hotels and entertainment, I think there'll be an influx. I think there'll be a lot of part-time positions made available. I think that is a good thing for people that live in the region, but I also think it's an area that businesses need to protect themselves on.
For sure. There's 2 aspects to labor that we need to take into account. The first is the laws governing labor itself, and there are many, mostly federal. I am not a labor lawyer, but we have a ton of labor lawyers at Genova Burns who can help you with that, especially if your business is already unionized or trying to be unionized. The second thing I want to mention is this. As in the Christmas holidays, businesses will hire more people because the business will increase. That is a temporary worker. And there are laws around temporary workers that you should be aware of. One comes to mind. You may hire those people under 1099s as independent contractors, but under recent rules issued by the Federal Department of Justice, they are probably going to be classified as employees. And if they are, you will have to pay taxes, just as you do for your regular full-time employees. It's another landmine to avoid. It's easily avoided. As to benefits, well, I'll bet that all of your businesses have a threshold below which you don't have to provide a regular employee with benefits. Be sure to look into that, because that can help you in your decision in hiring extra employment for the World Cup.
Yeah, and I think if I can close on that comment, I believe that, you know, the forethought and the planning on behalf of businesses is critically important. To know the law, to know the circumstances, and to plan what happens and how you'll staff up to accommodate the
Right.
influx of potential business is really important. If you're flying by the seat of your pants, that's when you're going to get in trouble.
You know, the thing I'm most excited about the World Cup is the fact that, unlike the NFL and baseball, the soccer players wear the coolest jerseys. And buying some new jerseys is going to be a lot of fun. Jim, how about you?
So my experience with international soccer and World Cup soccer dates back to 1994 when we hosted the 94 World Cup here. And as a member of the organization back then with my hospitality business, I was part of the Chamber's efforts back then. And my son was playing soccer, so I became a soccer lover. And then I experienced for the first time Italy, Ireland playing at the original Giant Stadium for 94 World Cup. And for 3 hours, the Irish fans were chanting in the stands, "You'll never beat the Irish, you'll never beat the Irish." It was amazing. It was an amazing experience for me. So I'm excited by the passion and the excitement that soccer fans, international soccer fans bring. And quite frankly, Americans have embraced it.
They sure have.
Right? You know, MLS has got 25 soccer-specific stadiums in the country now,
Sure.
maybe more. I may have lost count. And so soccer is embraced here. And I can tell you that it's accelerated. 1994 World Cup accelerated soccer. MLS started in 1995, playing at Giant Stadium with the Metro Stars. Now the Red Bulls have their own stadium. And I'm excited to see what this does for soccer in the United States to really accelerate and empower it. And I want to be part of that passion and excitement. It's a fun time.
That's great. I started watching soccer myself, and as a lifelong football and baseball fan, I've learned what's actually going on a soccer pitch, not field.
Pitch.
We've talked about a lot of issues today, and from my point of view, those mostly are legal issues. A lot of businesses, small, medium, and large, hesitate to hire outside counsel to address these issues. My best advice is don't. We can help you. The cost of a lawyer will be dwarfed by the costs you incur in penalties, litigation, governmental investigations, and the like. So this is a business decision to hire counsel. And if you do, at least you can reduce the risk of legal problems arising from this great economic opportunity. Thank you for joining us. I hope you'll tell people about our podcast so that they too get the benefit of the wisdom we've tried to send your way. Jim, thank you very much for your input. We wish you a lot of luck in helping us get the economic impact that you've described. I am, as I said before, I am Bill Heller, partnered with Angelo Genova, whom I've known for 50 years, and if he ever gives me crap, I know things.
Genova Burns has been servicing its clients for more than 35 years. John Quincy Adams said that whoever tells the best story wins. Let me tell you our story. My name is Eugene Paolino. I'm a partner at Genova Burns, and my specialty is real estate development and zoning law. We're in Hamilton Park in Jersey City, not far from the Jersey City waterfront, and certainly near the magnificent development that has taken place on what is now known as the Gold Coast. The financial condition of the city, the economic condition of the city in the 1960s was not good. As we know that there were racial issues and there were economic issues that tore the city apart as it did other cities. Jersey City rebounded. Jersey City found its way back. Why did the city ever even decide to develop? How did this happen? How did the development along the waterfront, how did this development, how did the development at Journal Square, which is another central business area of Jersey City, happen? It happened basically because the city of Jersey City decided to use a tool that the state of New Jersey allowed to promoted, which is a redevelopment process. Basically, take over the zoning for a certain area to do one thing and one thing only, to cure blight. If you're in a blighted area, that would be subject to a potential redevelopment plan. And that's what Jersey City did throughout the city, through the waterfront, General Square area, south of the city, north of the city. Redevelopment plans were passed in Jersey City with the sole goal of promoting development and bettering the lives of its citizens. What was the tool that the city utilized to develop properties? One of the prominent and necessary tools for doing that was the institution of tax abatements, also known as pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, which allowed developers for a period of time to pay an abated amount of taxes, and the entire abatement amount would be payable to the city, unlike what regular taxes do. It's a complicated process, but the whole process is to allow for buildings to be financed in places where they would not normally be financed, and lenders would not normally be lending. That tool was used, as well as an important tool that the redevelopment agency had and was given by the state legislature, which was the ability to condemn property in blighted areas and transfer title to those properties to developers, but subject to a redevelopment agreement that would require the developers to build what they say they're going to build. That tool was used over and over again throughout the city, so that's why you saw the explosion of development on the waterfront and the subsequent minor explosions, maybe as great as the explosion on the waterfront. But as those projects became attractive to investors, lenders, developers, the process moved further west. And you see that I'm in a park that is, probably a half a mile from the waterfront, and it is surrounded by new developments and rehabilitated buildings, brownstones surrounding the park. It's a beautiful spot. If you go further west, you'll see that the city climbs, the elevation climbs, and you get to Journal Square. And at Journal Square, which was an important commercial hub, maybe the biggest commercial hub in Jersey City, and now certainly the largest commercial hub in Jersey City, you'll see tall buildings whose height is even enhanced by the location of those buildings. Since they're on top of a hill, a tall building on top of a hill is even taller than the same size building on the waterfront. And those buildings are now exploding into development all around town, all around that area. That same process, the same redevelopment of blighted areas, areas that are abandoned, deteriorated, unused, and dilapidated, those areas are being developed to the south of the city in a place called the Lafayette area of the city, and to the north, the Jersey City Heights. It is what has made Jersey City what it is today, which is a vibrant city of all kinds, of all peoples, who may work anywhere, may work at home, may be working in the city, may be working, in fact, in Jersey City. I know there were concerns about gentrification. The question you might ask is, how did the city handle it? The city has attempted to prevent that in various ways. Various tools have been used to do that. But with the process of renovation and rehabilitation and new building, gentrification has occurred. There's no doubt about that. But that's also made more employment opportunities for its local residents, more economic opportunities for its businesses. It's been a boon to the city. And in sum, if you had to have a ledger on this, you would say that gentrification the new redevelopment of Jersey City has been a benefit to all of its residents, including the local residents that are here. If that weren't happening, the kind of park I'm sitting in today, the kind of buildings that surround us, the kind of services that are provided to its citizens would not have occurred. And I think it continues. Developers still see, and residents still see, Jersey City as an extremely attractive, economical place to live. Far better than any other place, far better than its competitors in Manhattan and in Brooklyn. And I think that will continue for some time. My name is Eugene Paolino. I'm a partner at Genova Burns. If you have any further questions or interest in the development of Jersey City, or you have a development in Jersey City, or you're interested in living in Jersey City, please contact me. I'm sure I can get you my contact information.
Genova Burns has been serving our corporate clients' needs for 35 years. John Quincy Adams said it best when he said, "He who tells the best story wins." And this is our story. My name is Edward Bonnet. I'm an attorney with the labor law practice at Genova Burns and a law professor at Villanova University Law School. I'd like to talk to you today about what you can expect in labor law from a new Trump administration and how that might be different from what we've seen the past 4 years in a Biden administration. So first off, most of what I'm going to be talking about involves the National Labor Relations Board, or I'll use the term the board in describing the National Labor Relations Board. Okay, so first of all, labor law is one of those areas that is very different, viewed very differently between the parties. The Democrats typically will be more geared toward labor-friendly decisions, and the Republicans will be more geared towards business-friendly decisions. And I think you'll see that in general. But let me talk to you about a few topics that you're going to see some changes. Number one is joint employer status. So joint employer status means that two companies, both a company that has daily control over terms and conditions of employment and another company that has some, I would say, authority over terms and conditions of employment, can be considered joint employers for terms of liability for unfair labor practices and to sort of pin the two companies together for responsibility in bargaining with a union. Now, under the Biden board, the rule that the Biden board was putting out there was that two employers are joint employers even if one of them only has authority over terms and conditions of employment and doesn't even exercise that authority. The Trump board is likely, given what we've seen in the past, to say that no, an employer is not a joint employer unless they both have authority over terms and conditions and exercise that authority on a regular basis. So you're more likely to see situations where two companies are not considered joint employers in the Trump administration. In the other area is independent contractor. So independent contractor is a big issue, especially with the economy and a lot of people kind of working gig work or piecemeal work or freelance. So under the Biden board, there was a case called Atlanta Opera Company. It involved wig makers. And the board said, the National Labor Relations Board, in a decision, said that the putative independent contractors were actually employees under the act, which meant that they had the right to unionize. They had a whole panoply of rights under the National Labor Relations Act. They said that you look at a whole bunch of factors when considering employee versus independent contractor. The Trump board, and there was cases under the first Trump administration, would say that if a worker has entrepreneurial opportunity of a certain extent, then that person, despite all the other factors, is typically considered an independent contractor. So that would make more workers independent contractors than employees. So you're likely to see that direction in the Trump board. One huge area is in organizing, union organizing. So under the Biden board, the board issued a decision called CEMEX, C-E-M-E-X, whereby it made it easier for unions to organize a group of employees. And what they did was they said, if a union collects cards, signatures of a majority of employees, and they submit those to a company, the company must recognize and bargain with the union, and the union doesn't have to seek an election. Now, the company under that decision would have to go seek its own election. But if the company commits even an independent, single, unfair labor practice in that time span, the board would say you're ordered to bargain with the union without an election. That dramatically changed the field and kind of reversed a situation that's been in place since the beginning of the National Labor Relations Act in 1935. The Trump board will most assuredly try to send a case up to the NLRB, to the board, to reverse the CEMEX decision and put it back to unions have to seek an election if they want to try to unionize. Handbook rules. This is another area where the Biden board sort of tightened up what an employer can put in its handbook by looking at the handbook rules from the perspective of sort of a vulnerable employee, and how would that employee look at it if that employee chose to try to unionize. The Trump board will look at these rules and say, is there a legitimate reason for the rule? Is it to protect civility in the workplace? Maybe ensure that the workplace is safe? That's how the Trump board's going to look at them, as opposed to how will it affect union organizing. Okay, so you'll likely see more rules that will be lawful that employers have, as opposed to more rules being thrown out because they might impair people's Section 7 rights under the National Labor Relations Act. That means the rights to unionize. And then a big area that has been percolating in recent years is college athletes, right? So you'll ask, what are college athletes employees? This has been the big question in the past few years. This current National Labor Relations Board would say yes, college athletes in certain situations, like big-time college football, big-time college basketball, those are employees of the universities, and therefore they have the right to unionize. They have the right to be protected under the National Labor Relations Act, and there's cases percolating through the legal system that are going to get there, that this current Biden board is hoping will kind of cement this employee status for big-time college athletes. The Trump board, and maybe even a Republican Congress, are likely going to push back against that and say, these are athletes, these are college athletes that are not employees because of recent NIL decisions, name, image, likeness. They have the right to make money, so that's not such a big issue anymore. And let's not take the big step and call them employees, because that comes with a whole bunch of ramifications. So I think you're likely going to see that. And finally, in the area of remedies, so the current National Labor Relations Board has been pushing an expansive realm of remedies in its cases. So, for example, what they've been seeking in terms of, let's say, if an employee is discharged for union activity, typically the board would order equitable remedies, make whole remedies. But what you've been seeing under the Biden board is pushing that envelope into any consequential and foreseeable remedy that might be there. Okay, so that has actually put the board in the crosshairs of constitutional challenges, where companies are saying those kinds of remedies are not in the jurisdiction of a federal agency. Those are in the jurisdiction of the courts only. And so I think what you'll see in the Trump board is they'll kind of tighten up the remedies, make sure that they are equitable remedies that are in the realm of a federal agency and not in the courts area. So there you have it. My name is Edward Bonnet. I'm thankful that you took the time to listen to this podcast, and we are here at Genova Burns to service your needs.
Genova Burns has been serving our clients' corporate needs for 35 years. As John Quincy Adams said, "He who tells the best story wins." This is our story. My name is Ken Sheehan, counsel. I am the chair of the Energy and Utilities department here at the firm. And today we're going to be talking about energy and clean energy. What are the major issues on the energy front that I'm seeing these days? Primarily, one of the major issues we're seeing right now is cost. In the state of New Jersey, the Assembly held a hearing not too long ago to discuss the impact of electricity costs on consumers. One interesting takeaway from that was the time spent on residential consumers, but very little time was spent on commercial consumers, despite the fact that in New Jersey, commercial and industrial customers use nearly 60% of the electricity, therefore paying about 60% of the costs. Electricity, as you can imagine, is one of those things that is not the bill you can push back too far. So small and mid-sized businesses are religious in keeping an eye on what they're spending, how they're spending, what it does to the bottom line. The state of New Jersey is pushing for an increase in clean energy. That certainly comes at a cost. And as that cost continues, small, mid-sized, and even large companies are having to face questions about, can they stay in New Jersey? Should they stay in New Jersey? What type of energy process should they use? Should they stay with the standard electric companies that you're aware of, the PSE&Gs, the JCP&Ls? Should they go to the third parties? Should they take a look at time of day, where you can change what you're doing? Should they be looking into things like interruptible gas service, where you agree to pay less for your gas, but the gas company can shut you off when they need to? So all of these are the types of things that we're seeing set the framework for the government's actions on pushing offshore wind, nuclear, solar, geothermal, and other clean energy technologies that hopefully we're going to get a chance to talk about. Offshore wind in New Jersey has been a process. What am I seeing and where do I expect that to go? The original Offshore Wind Act in New Jersey actually started in 2010 with what was supposed to be a very small test project off the coast of Atlantic City. That did not work, as you can imagine, since you can't see any windmills off the coast of Atlantic City right now. And the process since then has been growing in fits and starts. New Jersey's in competition with other states up and down the East Coast: Massachusetts, Virginia, New York, Delaware, Maryland. And in each case, each of these states is setting up a process by which companies can bid and be awarded subsidies. Two of the major issues we're seeing in the process is, one, nobody yet has a beachhead, so there's no place on the East Coast where you can really build the turbines, set up the manufacturing, reach the open ocean, and move forward on that one. And the other one, in complete candor, is many of the offshore wind companies have been using a ready, fire, aim process, where they've been awarded, and unfortunately come back sometime later to the entity that has awarded them the subsidies to say they can't do it, it's not enough. We've seen that in New York, we've seen that in New Jersey. The hope is that we're going to get an industry going. The state of New Jersey is doing its darndest to support that, but it's the kind of thing where we're going to have to really get a process whereby companies can bid and then build. But wind has not been a New Jersey success to date. That being said, the government is doing everything in its power to set a expectation of enough gigawatts coming out of offshore wind that when they're all running and spinning and producing electricity, that should cover probably the entire base load of the state of New Jersey. But we will see if and when that can happen. Nuclear power has been in the news a lot lately. What's the significance, concern, and impact of nuclear power in today's energy market? You've likely seen that 3 Mile Island is about to be restarted in order to serve the needs of data companies, Microsoft, Google, Facebook. These data centers and artificial intelligence companies have been sprouting up, and they need significant, continuous, uninterruptible energy power. They're probably at the forefront right now of restarting a nuclear renaissance. That is me being a little optimistic and probably showing my true colors on that one. Whether it's the restarting of recently shuttered nuclear power plants like 3 Mile Island, the construction of new nuclear, which we have seen in Georgia at the Vogtle plants, where we've got 2 new turbines up and running, although at a cost of about $35 billion. Or small modular nuclear reactors, which is a technology where you're taking facilities that are going to be 10 or 20 megawatts, chain them together, and they are considered to be extremely safe. Each of these are likely going to be something that New Jersey and the United States are going to have to look at as we're moving forward. One advantage of them is the energy independence. The United States has the ability of its own cache of nuclear fuel. It does not have to depend on other countries for that. You've got the safety. I mean, these are well-built, well-maintained facilities. You also have the advantage of these are clean energy technologies. There are no emissions from nuclear power, and nuclear power is one of the few technologies that will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether the sun's out, whether the rain's out, whether the wind's blowing, at night, at day. So that base load, which again in New Jersey, a good 40% or more of the power produced in New Jersey is produced from just 3 nuclear power plants that we have in the state. This is the kind of power that we're likely going to be looking for, at least for the near to midterm. What do you see as the most important next step in the clean energy transformation? In my opinion, and in my hope, I hope there's a young man or a young woman in a garage somewhere working on battery technology, because the day we have effective, inexpensive batteries is the day the entire energy economy changes. Don't think I'm overstating it. It would be similar to the importance of the transistor. If we have an ability to store energy created whenever, wherever, to be used whenever and wherever, much of what we've discussed becomes moot. You don't need natural gas. You don't need coal plants. You don't need fossil fuels. The fact that solar and offshore wind only produce electricity anywhere between 20 to 50% of the time is a non-issue at that point. Good, solid storage technology will allow for you to use power when you want to, where you want to, no matter when it was generated. That will be transformational. I would advocate, if we were to be looking at a Manhattan project for energy, I think the place to spend the time and the money would be on that battery technology. Find something that the United States has in abundance. Find a technology that the United States can develop. In the absence of cold fusion, I think this is our absolute best chance, and I think this has the advantage of actually not being 30 to 40 years away. With luck, these batteries will be the types of things that can be everywhere. There will be power plant sized batteries which will be used to service municipalities and regions. There will be batteries in hopefully your home or your apartment. As we move forward on cars, those cars will become two-way. As much as you're charging that vehicle, sometimes that vehicle may be charging your house. The expectation, I hope, is that we're going to see a full transformation of the way power is generated and delivered. New Jersey as a state and the United States as a whole is going to really need to step up the clean generation. Nuclear will have to be in the mix. Solar will have to be in the mix. Offshore wind will likely have to be in the mix. And the state of New Jersey needs to not only continue where it is, but continue to push to get more better generation on board as quickly as possible, to work in cooperation with its existing utilities, with new technology, and with the existing customer base, residential, commercial, and industrial, to reduce usage where they can, increase generation where they can, develop new technologies as they become available, all while trying to ensure that the state remains a place where everyone can afford to stay and pay their electric bills. My name is Ken Sheehan. I am counsel at the law firm of Genova Burns, working in the utility industry. If you have any questions, any concerns, would like to continue the discussion, please do not hesitate to reach out. I look forward to working with the industry, working with individuals, working with corporations on New Jersey and the United States' energy future.